Hi, Maria. Shehnaz here. Maria and I really want to get into the basically the biology of how a healthy sperm cell can impact reproduction for humanity. And of course, the title will come as we speak. But it is interesting that recently Maria and I spent some time in a Body, Mind, Spirit event in Denver, Colorado. And I actually realized that Maria has way more credential than I was giving her credit for, because she's actually expert in hematology, chemistry, immunology, microbiology. I'm like, goodness gracious. So I was very inspired by knowing that that makes sense for her to go pretty much straight to the microscope and what you see under the microscope. So we were actually grabbing our breakfast and we started having this conversation on sperm cell and what this healthy sperm cell looks like. And I was very excited to see that how it connects to everything that I study with the sacred geometry, and how the shape of tetrahedron is the fundamental shape of the matter, by the way. And it was proven by Pythagoras. It was also being worked by the quantum emergence theory folks that are based in Los Angeles, by the way. They're working on the E8 theory of quasi crystal, and they have discovered that we are fundamentally made of tetrahedron. So, so it's kind of really interesting for me to connect that with everything that Maria has found in the sperm cells. So thank you, Maria, for coming forward.
Sure, no problem. I mean, we did have a really, the conversation was a lot of fun, and it usually is. And it goes to, it's not your typical conversations that we have that we get excited about. But there's a lot of things that we can share. I mean, I did used to, do routine sperm counts and things like that. I did, so funny. I was in a corporate style job, still helping, people who worked for me, still helping them under the microscope. So their husbands would be coming in with their samples, and, so that, like, if they were having a hard time getting pregnant and things like that. So I've actually used my training probably more so just for personal reasons than I did, since I left the bench, basically. But it's fine.
Yeah, it's funny because I come from a very conservative Muslim background where we don't even talk about sex, let alone sperm. And here we're talking about sperm cell. And initially I wasn't as excited when Maria said the focus is sperm cell. And I'm like, why not all the cell? But then I realized that our human being and our humanity right now depends on the healthy sperm cell, because without the healthy sperm cell, the egg has nothing to fertilize with.
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's important that, we're not gonna sit and talk to people and talk to men in particular about this is everything that you should do and this is everything that you shouldn't do. But we're just gonna show some interesting things that are floating around out there, and it's going to be fun, I think, because we'll relate it to Shehnaz's expertise and talking about the tetrahedron, and some things that we discover on our own, basically, divine, that are divine, and that we feel are important, and maybe what we say helps and resonates with somebody out there.
Exactly. And it's going to help everyone understand that how something so small can have such a mega effect in humans' life and humans' evolution. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So Maria,
Yeah.
just you write it, you go ahead and write it, and I'll ask you questions because I think this is going to be fun.
Okay, great. Okay, where do you want to start?
So I think that maybe we can start with the pictures that you send me on a Telegram. So you can start giving people more like a storytelling on, like, when you look under the microscope, the samples, right? What do you generally look for in a healthy sperm cell? And then how, you are noticing what's happening in the last few years, especially with a lot of challenges health-wise, and how it all relates.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have been through fertility clinics, and that was before the C19 injections actually ever started. And infertility was a problem, long before C19 ever ever came about. Infertility was actually a big problem. And in the United States, for instance, we haven't been able to support, our own population with our birth rate. It's become inverted, over the past decade. So we look to things like detoxification and chemicals, microplastics, parasites, all kinds of different things like that that plague our biological bodies. Stress is a big one. Electromagnetic frequencies are a big one. All of these things matter. We know that even by setting a cell phone on top of our pelvic area or wearing them in our pockets, that our fertility is actually negatively affected. So you can imagine at the cellular level what our biological bodies and especially our reproductive system is going through, just trying to harness enough energy to protect itself from all of the environmental toxins, let alone the terrible things that you might ingest, that, for poor diets, from sodas, from your nicotine, smoking and things of that nature, and what those things are doing to the reproductive organs. So when Shehnaz and I were talking, I just thought, let's do something fun and, that might interest people. And let's put some sperm on the screen.
Yep, that sounds like
So
a great idea.
Show me the normal sperm picture. And I just want people to see this.
Yep, so I'm going to do that. Let me just go onto my Telegram. And let's see. So I think that right here, do you want me to click?
That's correct. Yep.
This one?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
so this is a mock-up, but I really liked this picture because a normal sperm will have a single tail, and it will have a nice sort of oval head that's not too round because, again, the sperm has to not only pierce through the follicle, but the follicle actually puts off its own set of hormone and debris, and the sperm actually has to fight through that mountain of debris. I was able to show Shehnaz a nice video of that debris, and how hard the sperm have to fight. So when we're looking at sperm, we want them to be very quick. They have to have a single tail, so that means they're nice and motile. So when we're looking and we're examining a sperm smear or we're doing a count, we look for motility and what we call morphology. So morphology, we're always looking at the shape, and we're always looking at how fast or how motile they are. Are they spinning around in one circle, or do they have some sort of a direction about them? And then I said to Shehnaz, let's to me, this looks like a tetrahedron. And she said, oh my goodness, it's true. So if you look at it at a 360 degree, if you are able to turn it around, I want Shehnaz for you to explain what this means to you as far as the shape is concerned.
Okay. So first of all, this depiction here, you're saying that this is a representation of a healthy sperm cell, right?
Yep.
Okay. And right. So like if this, like if we invert it, so basically, it's pretty obvious that it kind of has the triangular shape. And then of course, on the 2D, we see triangular shape. But when you do a 3D, then you see the other side, which has like it kind of makes it look a little bit like a pyramid. And that tetrahedron, which is one of the key fundamental shape of reality, is how everything actually becomes matter. So when you really understand the journey of electrons into matter at the basic level, it's actually a tetrahedron shape. And this, of course, you can look at it as a shape itself, but you can also say that every single tetrahedron that makes this sperm, right, because it can go into a very deeper level. Because it's interesting because so Maria, I'm reading this book on the pulse electromagnetic field, and I was very interested to know that like we have 100 trillion cells in our body, and each cell has 100 trillion atoms in our body. So when we're talking about tetrahedron, we're going at a very, very fundamental level. So therefore, I want people who are listening to this is to not think of one sperm cell as one tetrahedron. It's just more along the line where the shape basically combines kind of in a bifurcation, when you really think about how everything's fractal, it actually makes this shape. And the very fact that what we're looking for in determining a sperm cell to be healthy is also the shape of a pyramid that is something that everybody needs to understand, that as above, so below, right? So this is a great way for us to understand that how something has to follow the beautiful sacred geometry for it to be healthy.
Yes, agreed. Let's take a look at the abnormal slide.
Okay. And that one is this one,
Yep.
isn't it? Okay.
Yep, that's some of them. So this is just, just a screenshot of some abnormal, say the head defects, the neck and mid-piece defects, and the tail defects. So like I was saying before, you know, our reproduction, our ability to reproduce is actually divine. It's pretty miraculous. When the sperm and the egg meet, there's an actual chemical process that happens, and it is a spark. And this has been proven through electron microscopy. So there is an actual bright light and a spark and some sort of an amazing chemical response. In order to get that, we have to have, our DNA that is not broken, our cells that are not broken. What you're seeing here essentially is the result of a dysfunctional replication process. So in the testicles, that the sperm are not able to reproduce and into a normal healthy cell or spermatozoa. So then you see all these different defects, a small head and a head that's too elongated, evacuated head, all of these things, right? And then you have cytoplasmic droplet disorder. That's one of the neck and mid-piece defects. I've seen that myself.
Wow.
We always see the bent heads. That's a neck and mid-piece defect. That's in the center section there, the bent one. I used to see that all the time. And then the tail defects. If you've got a tail defect or a head defect, any defect whatsoever, you can imagine, that the actual sperm is not going to be able to swim and penetrate the force field of the egg's defenses, because even during fertilization, the egg has a defense mechanism. But the egg also puts off a chemical that, and I'm not a fertility specialist by any means. I do know the basics as far as that's concerned. But yeah, that the egg puts off a chemical that attracts the sperm, right? So they should be a heat-seeking missile, going crazy, like little propellers, towards the egg. If they have any one of these defects, that's just not possible.
Wow.
And then go to the other slide that shows
So
the
I wanted to ask you about the amorphous, right? Amorphous is the one where I don't even see any kind of whatsoever the oval shape. Like it's like really different than all of these
think
shapes,
of it
right?
like think of that like a DNA malformation, like when a baby is born with a club hand or a club foot.
Oh, wow.
Something of that nature. So, when this process starts at the cellular level, even when a sperm is being is being made, they go through the same thing. We're still talking about the cellular level, and trying to, keep a body healthy enough so that they produce a normal sperm, which is not easy in today's environment. It's why before the C19 injections came out, we had infertility issues, right? All the fast food, all the chemicals, these things are called forever chemicals, and they stay in your biological body, and you are what you eat. You absolutely are. That is a fact. And it's bad enough that our food supply and our water supply are so poisonous. It's bad enough that whenever we go out and we eat, fast food and things like that, sodas, aspartame, which is in all diet drinks, it's basically formaldehyde, guys. What do you think that's doing to your fertility, your sperm, and all the cells in your body? This is another slide of morphology. You would think that a spearhead, like a really pointy one, would be able to access an egg, but that's just not how we're built.
It doesn't, right? Because you think that it looks like it has that look about it like a missile, right? Like a little tiny missile.
Yeah.
That you're
And it's supposed to, and think about it, it's supposed to be divine. So we don't need something that aggressive. We'll just put it that way.
Exactly. So I guess going back, so is there anything else you want to share here, or should we?
No, not with the sperm. I think that the water slide is a good one.
Okay, so yeah, because right now, so you have mentioned what unhealthy sperm looks like. We saw it. You also mentioned that we had problems with infertility even before the 2020 situation, with C19.
Yeah.
But then you're saying, so I'm hoping you're going to tell us the storyline in terms of how, in your experience, things have gotten different, right, from the C19 situation. And then what can people do to help them
So
rebuild it?
yeah, that's a good lead in. So there is a great little excerpt of a video out, and it's only about a minute and a half long. Shehnaz and I have both seen it. This gentleman right here. And we're not going to play it for you, but if anybody wants access to that, you can write into Shehnaz's channel. She'd be happy to send it to you. But essentially what it's showing is that the spike is replacing spermatozoa in the testes. So the tissue is being completely replaced with the spike post C19 injection. And we'd like to focus on helping people and solutions and, calling this, what it is without people losing hope. So, we need to be able to talk about these things, but we don't want to come from a hopeless situation, right? There's all kinds of things that you can do, to increase your fertility, to, correct your cells. And guys, it really requires a lifestyle habit change. And that's for men and women, because let's face it, it's not easy to do in today's society. And it's much easier to do it when you have a partner. So, I think it would be important for many couples to start going through this health transition, especially to remediate the biological body. It's incredibly important, especially now, even for people who didn't receive the C19 injections, because we are all susceptible to this particular spike. And I won't say the full word because we're not sure if YouTube will take us down. So, but it is imperative. We have to be together on this as humanity and realize that this is happening. So what this means in this video, and this is after the gentleman passed away and he already had a healthy son, but then died 140 days after his C19 injection. Whenever the testes were analyzed, this is what they found. No sperm, no spermatozoa, no sperm cells, all spike. Wow. So this is a sterility problem. This is a conversation that I actually had, with an ER physician just this weekend, that he didn't know about it. He did not know about this. And this pathology of, the spike replacing tissue organ cells has been out for about a year and a half to 2 years, because Dr. Ryan Cole was the first to show it. So this has been out, and it has been very, very public for almost 2 years, yet we still have the white coats and others out just doling out this injection like it's okay, and it's not. So
right. So what you're saying is that, of course, we've had an infertility problem all our lives. That's why some couples are not able to have children. That has been an ongoing challenge for some people. But because of what has happened with the C19, you're saying that now we have increased our odds against this challenge even more now because of the way the biology is, right? And what happens, which is more shown in that video that we're not sharing yet, but we can, if anybody asks for it. So then you're saying, and then when you were having a conversation with the ER physician, he was not even aware that something like this, like what's happening with C19 can truly create a challenge for the sperm to be a healthy sperm, right? He wasn't aware. So I think for people who needs to prove themselves, right, that it is really true, we can either have a link to that video or if there's an article, because I want to make sure that people have access to anything that helps them, provide the proof for themselves. So even when they're talking to their own doctor or their gynecologist or anybody who's helping them, even with the whole reproduction scenario, they have all the data, right? So that they can be equipped with the data where they can feel that they can do a good job in communicating with all these people, because all of these people have roles to play. And it's kind of almost sad, right, that he did not know, even though he's a ER physician, and I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of emergency in the last few years when we have had so many more health challenges.
Yeah, it goes to show you that guys, none of us are going to be experts in all things. I mean, we're just not. And that includes physicians. Okay. So it's important to understand that, I'm not always right about everything. Shehnaz isn't always right about everything. And for God's sakes, your physicians aren't always right about everything. It is very important for you to become your own scientist and your own advocate. It is important for people to start taking their own healthcare back and to start looking at ingredient lists. And that includes, especially with any injection that is administered into your body, you only have one. Unless you want to go out and get the new organic sleeves for clones, for God's sake.
That is true. And especially because of the advent of the nanotechnology, right? I think that in the last 5 years, we have done this incredible, genetic engineering, CRISPR technology, nanotechnology. Like with an injection, anybody can put anything in your bloodstream because it's going to be a nanotechnology, right? And it could be even like some sort of sensor that keeps track of you as like a tracker everywhere you go. So for the most part, you have to really clearly know that who's putting that injection in you, why are you taking it, what are the ingredients, even if you can get a good idea of the label. And if you have any friends, like I have Maria, for example, ask around and say, does this look right to you? And you know what, you also have your intuition, so you have to check in with all of that. So that is the goal, right? So Maria, you mentioned the problem we have at hand. You also mentioned how people get unhealthy sperm with so many different reasons: environmental challenges, epigenetics, electromagnetic field, also the very fact that C19, all of that can play a role in messing your sperm cell up. So now let's focus on what is all these people who are aware that they may have a bad sperm cell, what can they do to change that biology?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. I know that a lot of men and even wives, they could relate to this, but frequently men get something that we call a varicocele, or it's an inflamed vein that comes out, and actually is quite painful, in the testicle. Sometimes they can get a varicocele. It's just, bottom line, it's just an inflamed vein. Okay. But it does mess with, it is inflammation, and you don't want inflammation in that area of any kind. Same thing with an ovary. I mean, you just don't want inflammation, right? And at the source, if you can control inflammation, you can actually put a real strain on disease in general, really. Just by reversing inflammation, because your smart body knows then how to deal with the abnormalities. That's why it knows how to eradicate, broken DNA and reactive oxygen species. I mean, that's what your body does, right? And if a person has an inflamed, even urinary tract, or anything going on like a varicocele, bottom line is you can control the inflammation in that area. And the studies show that if you have glutathione, or ample amounts of glutathione on board in your cells, which is your master antioxidant present in all of your cells, if you have that, it actually significantly increased the quality of your sperm, just in general.
Wow.
I have a quick story. When I had my auto-renal transplant, my husband and I were trying to get pregnant. So I was about 46, 47. So I'm teetering, on the I'm too old. But I had the auto-renal transplant, and they cut out a cyst in my right ovary. And I thought, great, it's dead. once you damage that area, it's damaged, and typically it will shrink up and go away, especially at my reproductive age. I had access to an ultrasound where I was able to see myself every day, and I used it every single day because I had access to it. And I had access to the technologist. So I was kind of spoiled in that I got to watch my own pathology progress and then actually contract. After I had this done and I had the surgery, we couldn't find my right ovary, so it was going away. And very personal story, and I was bummed. But do you know that within 5 days of taking my prototype, that was my tincture at the time, within 5 days of starting that, and it had been gone for the ovary, I couldn't see for, it was probably a couple of months. And not only did it come back to life, but it's the same size as the other one and started reproducing again.
Wow. Now that's quite a story. So, okay, so now I want to really get into the little bit of the science of it, right? Okay, so first I want to explain everybody why I'm so interested in that. So I've been doing a lot of research on scalar energy and just energy in general. And because to me, it's just fun to understand everything at the molecular level. And one of the things that when I was reading about the scalar energy and what is the key parameter of that, and I think we may have to get into it next in our next podcast, because I want to go into the DNA and how DNA has to have a certain shape, like the shape of the DNA, like the double helix, right? Which is a hexagonal shape. And that shape is actually very critical for the DNA to do all its technological thing, which is like self-sustaining, self-replicating, all of that. And it's dependent on the shape because that shape holds the energy, the fractal energy that it needs to do everything that it needs to do because it's a hologram. You see? So now I want to explain. So basically, based on that understanding, right, of scalar energy and how our body works, if you don't interfere with the beautiful flow of life, I want to connect that with glutathione, because I know you were telling me earlier when we were talking off the, personally in Denver, you said glutathione is one of the major, like it's a very large molecule compared to other molecules. So I want to understand that how your tincture, which is the key thing is glutathione, truly was help in sustaining your shape back, right? Because that's what you're saying, that your shape was compromised and your tincture brought it back to its original shape.
The cells were damaged, and with the ovaries, I know that any fertility specialist will tell you they are so sensitive. You don't want to damage them. You don't want EMF anywhere near them. It is causing a serious infertility issue. As far as the glutathione is concerned, this being the master antioxidant, this is the mitochondrial brain for every cell, glutathione. So the difficulty in glutathione and using it is that it is difficult to get it to absorb because it is such a large molecule, which is why people take NAC as a precursor, because NAC helps your body produce more of its own glutathione. Now, here is something that Shehnaz and I were talking about, and this is really interesting. The question came up, and it's come up before because I've had other people ask me, well, wouldn't it be better for me to produce more of my own glutathione instead of supplementing it? So maybe I'll just go take NAC. I'm not against NAC, but listen, is NAC, I mean, how will you ever know if your glutathione levels are where they need to be? And same thing if you're ever supplementing, right? It's very difficult for you to know. You're always going to continue to age. You're always going to continue to have environmental factors against you. And how do you know that the functions inside, and Shehnaz and I were laughing about this because it's obvious. You don't know what other metabolic or biological processes inside of your body are dysfunctional. How do you know that if you take NAC that you're actually going to be able to produce glutathione? Because are all of the processes functional in your body that would allow this transition or this production to take place? You just don't know. So, people grab all kinds of different supplements out there, hoping and praying that this works. You know, I don't know if I feel different, but I'm just going to take it because I know that it's probably good for me. Whereas we can actually demonstrate from the outside in real results, real anti-aging results. I mean, so much so that we won the best anti-aging award for 2022 in New York City by Cosmetics and Toiletries, a scientific beauty organization. So rebuilding tissue and repairing the cell was not only obvious to me from the inside out, but to PhD scientists and cosmetic beauty scientists that were judging us from the outside in. So we know we're doing it.
Right, exactly. So your tincture basically, which is kind of a very direct way to deliver the glutathione in the cell without having for this, for the body to do a lot of work. Because like if somebody's body is not functioning as well as it should on the first place, then they really need like a direct help. So that's why the tincture really works. But not only that it provides the glutathione, it also enables you to make your own glutathione, right?
Yeah, so the new product that we have coming out, which is called Regenesis, that we're doing with New Earth Horizon and Sasha Stone, has an ingredient in it that will allow us to help our bodies. We're not only going to supplement it, but we're also going to help the body produce more of its own. So that will actually be taking place as well. That one is not ready yet. It will be ready to ship, I believe, in late April. I know that keeps getting pushed back, but that one has a bit more of a price tag on it because it is a little bit more difficult to source one more ingredient. So to be honest with you, the tincture's your money because it's very economical and it's like 6-7 different things all in one and intracellular and bioavailable. So yeah, I mean, even for reproduction, I actually, at the age of 47, I had something called a super ovulation where I released 2 eggs out of each ovary at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And that's as a 47-year-old. And I saw it happen. So, the before and the right after, just because, I don't have 30 eggs on each ovary to count. So it was quite obvious, right? So what had happened. And we did try a few times and I had a lot of stress in my life. And that's the other thing, guys. Stress releases chemicals in the body that suppress fertility.
Right. So that makes sense. So in order to give everybody a little summary, so like in the beginning, we talked about how how healthy sperm cell looks like, how unhealthy sperm cell looks like, where we are headed in general with our lifestyle and with everything that's happened in all these years we've been alive. It seems like we're kind of going in a little bit of a negative direction when it comes to sperm cell. So therefore, we are concerned about it, which is why we are talking about this subject and raising awareness. The solution to that, of course, is not just one thing, but physically, if you can do one thing, then you want to take something that helps enhance your glutathione in your body. And of course, me and Maria are a little bit biased, so we're going to say Abeytu tincture is a good way to start with that. We also know Regenesis is going to be a stepper upper. However, that's going to be more expensive. So as long as you can still get the Abeytu tincture, you can get your glutathione. Now, I want to ask if somebody doesn't want to take a tincture or anything, like just from a biology standpoint, Maria, what is one way people can ultimately become healthy enough to make their own glutathione?
That's a good question. Very difficult to do in today's society, and it would require a serious cleanup of the chemtrailing and the water. We can't, and we do have that water slide. If you would bring that up,
Yes.
Bring that up really quick, and let's just talk about structured water for 1 second. Shehnaz and I are both. We both promote centropics, and this is why. So you see what water looks like when it's exposed to Wi-Fi on the top row. And then we have 3 products that we represent, the cloud, the bubble, and the cocoon. The cocoon is a house product, house protection. The bubble is a personal protective device, which, I wear religiously. And then the cloud is a molecular activation device, but you can see how it turns your cells into to hexagonal, back to a crystalline type of a structure. Let me tell you why this matters. And this matters because your body is mostly composed of water. So the plasma, the fluid that your cells swim in, and your plasma and your interstitial fluid, this is all about 98% water. The cells themselves are actually 68 to 78% water. So you can imagine if you can change that structure to a crystalline hexagonal base. I'll read off some of the advantages to this. You increase the absorption of all things, of everything that you take. So you're going to increase the absorption, and that includes the tincture or any other supplement that you take. Your cells automatically take that up much, much better. You will increase your sperm and your semen quality. That's actually a result of having structured water. Increase tissue conductivity, and it's more hydrating for tissues, joints, and you're getting oxygenation to prevent cell breakdown. And then in one study, so you're decreasing oxidative stress, but in another study, this is really cool, it increased the rate of growth of tissue, so tissue repair, and improved insulin and glycemic responses in diabetics. That's huge. And that's just from having structured water. So what we have right now is, water exposed to nothing but Wi-Fi and electromagnetic frequencies that are harmful to us.
Right. Wow. That's pretty amazing. And I like to
Right?
add, so yeah. So what you actually said, that the hexagonal shape or the sacred geometry, and one thing I want to point out is that this slide that Maria is showing is actually the slide done with the person who's actually the, Dr. Emoto is the one who did the water experiment, but he recently died. And then the person who took over for him is the one who's working with the scientists with Centropics. And so they performed the experiment with someone who is as close to Dr. Emoto as we can get in today's world. And they performed this experiment with all these products. So that kind of just adds to the credibility of what you're looking at. It's not just something that came out, it came out with the scientist who worked with Dr. Emoto. And then the very fact that, Maria, what you said about the whole repair aspect of it, which kind of aligns with what you were saying when you did the tincture, Abeytu tincture, because technically you said with your story that you had a child, your ovary, your shape of ovary wasn't the same, right? And it ended up building it back to itself, right?
Yep.
So that is pretty amazing. So of course, when you have these devices, which is like Centropics, adds, kind of like another level of information, because when you take a tincture, then I know Maria says this very well. She says that it's award-winning cellular nutrition is what the Abeytu tincture is, and this Centropics machine is kind of all about molecular activation. So when you combine the two, you're kind of addressing your health from all these different perspectives, because just like you become unhealthy by doing many things, not just one thing, right? We have already point out that where we live, we all have Wi-Fi router, we all have EMF, we have negative EMF, we have all these things going on in the world where you are dealing with transfection, shedding, spike protein. Then not only that, we have like stress of living in today's age where we have so much coming at us. And a lot of time people are so overwhelmed, even with their own health, that they don't even know what to decide. Like a lot of people are very confused because information is out there, but you have to be able to transcend the information into knowledge and wisdom to truly make an effort in your life. So what me and Maria are doing is we're just making it easy for people on subjects that we already are passionate about, subject we know we have some interest and understanding of, and we're combining it from both different perspectives, because I study sacred geometry, and then Maria studies blood, and then when we see the similarity in both of us coming to the same point, that yes, the good shape of the sperm cell looks like a pyramid, that's the conclusion. In order to retain that, you have to do some work. Both me and Maria were very health conscious, but still we do take tinctures, because we know that no matter how healthy diet you're in, you still have to protect yourself from the environment. And you also have to do a repair, because you've lost some of the good stuff in your body. So you have to work on bringing it back. And then to me, like I started using this machine for 2 months, Maria, Maria is the one reason I came into Centropics. And I have to say that, like, I feel like my entire microbiome has been upgraded. My energy is upgraded. I'm using the bubble, which is the scalar device, which gives you Schumann resonance at all times, even when you are in the building or enclosed environment. And I feel like my skin is getting clear. So these are the things that we're doing. So we are not telling you something that we are not doing. We're actually sharing with everything that we're doing, because we feel like it's time that we all start sharing whatever little we know, so we can come together and build communities and build a healthy human species.
Yep, agreed. On all fronts. I mean, really, and think about it. I would love to see what a negative or a depressed chemical response does to the water inside of your cells. I think that would be amazing, and see how that transverses, all the way through to making new cells or eggs or spermatozoa, the whole 9 yards, because there's a chemical process always at the very beginning. So it's important too that we get into the right mental health to be able to help save ourselves. I mean, mental health is very challenging right now, and people are not in a good emotional place. And I think that anything that you can do that is not a petroleum based type of a product or a band-aid that chemically alters you, that you become dependent on, anything else that you can do naturally that would help you would be amazing, and it will help progress humanity. And that's really what we're all about, truly.
Exactly. And then the thing is that we know that we are a spirit, we are mental, we're emotional, we're physical. So we have to make sure we address all our layers in the best way we can. So physically, yes, having a Abeytu tincture or having the Centropics will help you physically, right? But then you have to work on your emotion, your mental, your spiritual. And of course, on those accords, I actually love to dwell into that. So I have all these workshops and coaching, and even the book, The Quantum Being. And to me, this is like all about recognizing that how incredible we are as a human species, and we want to make sure we retain our qualities and keep on doing the amazing thing we are doing, but not at the expense of ourselves.
And I'll just side note, we were in Denver, and Shehnaz did a talk where she got to stand up, and talk in front of a lot of people about her book and quantum mechanics and everything, fractality and entanglement and everything, right? So there was really no subject that was off limits. And it was really neat to see that people would come and talk to her afterwards, and she sold so many books. This was her first time out really at an event like this, and sold a lot of books and met a lot of very, very interesting people. So it was really neat to see that there's a lot of people waking up to the truth about our existence. And it was more than just superficial, right? Because you see the hustle and the bustle of the city, and everybody's like, I got to get to work, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. And everybody's on a time schedule. So it was really neat for me to look over and see that there's more depth to a lot of people, and that we are making some sort of an impact, and that this particular community is growing.
Exactly. That is very true, because there were thousands of people there. And I think that everybody at the fundamental level is looking to feel good and do good and follow their calling. And I think that if you feel good, you're going to have a higher probability of following your calling. So that's why we are here, to raise awareness. And so, Maria, is there anything else you would like to say as we say goodbye?
Nope. I just thought it was really fun that we start out with a bunch of sperm, and see if and see if that resonates with anybody, and any other subject that you want us to deep dive on, or questions or anything like that. We're happy to do. We have some crazy schedules right now, Shehnaz with doing talks, and me with different launches, and all kinds of back stuff. But you know what? It's also important that we get out there and show our face and say, hey, what do you want to hear? So, I mean, we're happy to do it. Just write into Shehnaz and let us know.
Exactly. And we both kind of come from a very different background, which really helps make it very multidimensional, the conversation. So that's why it's so exciting. So yes, this is a good way for us to share about the sperm cell. Next time we may talk about the fertilization and the spark that you mentioned, because I'm so excited about that. But we would love for you guys to actually write down to us anything that you think would help you make your health better, because if you make your health better, then we all win. That's just the way we see it. So enjoy your day. And thank you, Maria, for showing up. I know we have such a crazy schedule. We're both leaving for LA tomorrow. And I know it's kind of
See you in
fun.
LA.
See you in LA, yes. So anyway,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we are grateful
So it
for
was
this
fun.
opportunity, and everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thanks.